This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Oh, rats! An Annapolis Valley neighborhood is frustrated by its growing rodent infestation. Daycare demands renewed calls for the province to bring in a centralized wait list. And making the switch. Cape Breton County Arena debuts CBRM's first electric ice resurfacer.
A chilly start to the weekend with some light snow in the southwest that clears, and overall quiet after that. Your full forecast is coming up.
A neighborhood near Wolfville is under siege by a gnarly rat infestation. And as the CBC's Andrew Sampson reports, residents of that neighborhood are frustrated by the lack of action taken to get the problem under control.
Natasha Banks has been dealing with a nasty rat infestation on her property since last fall, and she says it's only getting worse.
They've been chewing my car, living under my deck, chewing my garage, and just are out in the open during the day. You can see them actively running around.
After months of fighting a losing battle to keep the rats at bay, trapping and poisoning them when she could, she learned the real source of the infestation.
They are coming from my direct neighbor.
At the neighbor's house, rats can be seen under the car, going in and out of the garage, and hiding in the bushes, even in broad daylight.
There's an excessive amount. They sort of come out at night, but they are out during the day. My children will get off the bus and report that there's approximately 20 just hanging out in his driveway.
The neighbor declined an interview, saying only that he has a little rat problem. He says some of the rats are inside his house and he feeds them. He estimates there's around 50 on his property. But this pest control expert believes there's more.
I'm guessing, just from what we can see, we're definitely north of 100.
He says it doesn't take long for a full tilt infestation to develop.
So it's a pest control graph that just points straight up at the end of it. So the numbers can get gigantic if left unchecked, especially if there's a lot of food around, a lot of water around, a lot of hiding places. Everything things need, they're going to take advantage of, and they're going to meet that capacity.
In the last month, Banks began speaking with other neighbors and discovered they've also been struggling with the rats. Since then, the group has been reaching out to the municipality of Kings County asking for help. But they say they've been getting the runaround.
I'm worried that as time goes on, if it doesn't get under control, that it's going to get worse. And we also have a newborn baby and a 4-year-old. So I would like my children to be able to play outside and not have to be worried about rats, or my daughter thinking a rat is a pet.
It wasn't until Banks posted a video showing the extent of the issue online and spoke with CBC News that she finally heard back from Kings County. She said the municipality and pest control have since visited the neighbor and set up a 6-week plan to get the situation under control. Andrew Sampson, CBC News, White Rock.
A shooting sent one man to hospital in the Halifax's Armdale area early Friday morning. Police say the shooting happened near the 200 block of St. Margaret's Bay Road at around 5:30 a.m. Officers found a man with a gunshot wound. He was taken to hospital with serious but not life-threatening injuries. St. Margaret's Bay Road was closed for several hours near the Armdale roundabout. Police do not believe the incident was random. Victim impact statements were read in Halifax Provincial Court on Friday in the case of an engineer who drowned at a Nova Scotia Power reservoir more than 4 years ago. As the CBC's Josh Hoffman tells us, the emotional remarks painted a picture of a family struggling to move forward after their tragic loss.
Through tears and sobs, Andrew Nasdowski's family sat in Halifax Provincial Court on Friday, listening to more than a dozen victim impact statements as part of a sentencing hearing for the 3 companies convicted in relation to his death. Andrew drowned at a Nova Scotia Power reservoir in 2020 while working as an engineer. His employer, Brunswick Engineering, another contractor, Gemtech Consulting, and Nova Scotia Power were all convicted in August for failing to have proper rescue equipment on site. Read one by one, the statements by Andrew's family and friends showcase the devastating effect his death has had on all of them. Rochelle Nasdowski, Andrew's mother, says she's a completely different person now than she was before her son's death, having endured immense pain and despair. She says just 2 weeks before her son died, he showed her the ring he had bought to propose to his girlfriend. Friends described Andrew in their statement as someone they could always count on, who loved to cook for them and make them laugh. The two-day sentencing hearing got underway on Thursday and also heard arguments from Crown and defense lawyers over what penalties should be handed to the three companies involved. Lawyers for the companies suggested fines ranging from $30,000 to a maximum of $50,000. But Crown attorney Alex Keaveney argued this incident requires a much steeper penalty to make sure it never happens again, and pushed for a maximum fine of $500,000. Judge Elizabeth Buckle is expected to deliver her decision on July 3rd. Josh Hoffman, CBC News, Halifax.
All right, Ryan, the weekend has arrived. How are things shaping up?
It's shaping up to be a pretty quiet weekend overall, though a notable one. We will be looking at some light snow overnight into the early morning hours of Saturday in the southwest of the province. Digby, Yarmouth, Liverpool, up into the Lunenburg, Bridgewater area, maybe with a few flakes. And in fact, can't rule out some flakes as far north as Kentville and Halifax, though just an isolated chance here. It is primarily in the extreme southwest, where we could actually see as much as 2 to 5 centimeters of accumulation. Cooler in the northeast, and the skies will definitely brighten into the afternoon and the evening. We are looking at Sunday's forecast, pretty quiet. We'll see, though, increasing clouds, and that's on the leading edge of our next system. So there's the snow in through the southwest, as you can see here for Saturday in the morning, clearing into the afternoon. And then we've got a messy mix on the way for Sunday night, and this will be snow, ice pellets, freezing rain. That carries through into Monday. Also, the potential, there will be a partial solar eclipse to see Saturday morning. We'll talk about that coming up.
Yeah, lots to talk about. All right, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, Nova Scotia's official opposition and childcare advocates are renewing their calls for the provincial government to implement a centralized daycare waitlist. This would bring Nova Scotia in line with other Atlantic provinces. As Selena Alders reports, the province says it's working on an online system for childcare delivery, which could include a coordinated waitlist.
Parents in Nova Scotia who are trying to find childcare must apply to individual centres across the province. Since most are at capacity, parents often end up on dozens of different waitlists, hoping to secure a spot for their child. Childcare advocates and opposition leaders say a centralized daycare waitlist would streamline this process.
A centralised system would certainly alleviate many issues, the administrative workload within centres, and for families to actually be able to access the system in real time.
Beth Towler runs We Care in Halifax, which has about 500 children on its waitlist. She says she sees many anxious parents who repeatedly call, email, and even show up to the centre to see whether they're inching any closer to a spot.
If they could actually see that, it would certainly help them be able to plan back to work.
NDP MLA Susie Hansen agrees that a central list would help parents and also lift some of that workload off providers.
The providers are there to provide safe and quality childcare for folks, and that's what we want them to do. We don't want that administrative burden.
A province-wide daycare waitlist exists in PEI, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland and Labrador. It's also the norm in Quebec and some municipalities in Ontario. Newfoundland launched its digital waitlist last spring.
It's still not a silver bullet to fix all of the issues by any means, but we do have a much greater understanding of what the true need is right now in our province. And we're very happy with the way that this has unfolded and getting some great feedback from our providers as well.
The Department of Education told CBC in an email that it's working to develop a new modern IT system to help deliver childcare services across the province. They say this new system will have a range of functions and could include a centralized daycare waitlist. Selena Alders, CBC News, Halifax.
Days after Premier Tim Houston's government passed legislation that lifts the provincial moratorium on hydraulic fracturing for onshore natural gas, Mi'kmaq leaders in Nova Scotia are threatening legal action. In a letter that was posted on social media Thursday night, the chiefs say the Assembly of Nova Scotia does not support any hydraulic fracturing activity and will continue to oppose it until all environmental concerns are addressed. On Friday, the Assembly also released a statement saying they are looking into filing an injunction into the province's lawmaking process on fracking and uranium mining because they're making decisions about the lands and waters in the unceded and traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq. Assembly members say they were not properly consulted. Well, Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Andrew Furey is calling for the Marine Atlantic ferry between Sydney and Port aux Basques to be free. His comments come after the federal Conservatives and Liberals have committed to reducing or eliminating fees on PEI's Confederation Bridge. Furey says, like PEI has long argued the Confederation Bridge is simply an extension of the Trans-Canada Highway, so is the Marine Atlantic Ferry Service and should be toll-free. He says what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. Furey says eliminating fees on the ferry will also help reduce interprovincial trade barriers. It's estimated the move would cost the federal government about $120 million a year. Well, people visiting or living in Halifax will be able to grab a new electric bicycle or scooter this spring. The municipality recently chose Bird Canada to deliver a micromobility pilot. It's the first time shared bikes and scooters have been regulated in Halifax. The Toronto-based company will be the only ones offering them around the city. Bird scooters have the latest technology that prevents people from riding them on the sidewalk, and they can only be parked in designated areas.
We can see when people ride on the sidewalk. So one, they should be brought to a stop, but two, and this goes with misparking, sidewalk riding, kind of any non-compliant behavior, so to speak. We will send a warning at first saying, hey, you left your scooter outside the parking zone. One, they'll continue to be charged. That's a bit of a stick, but it's quite expensive not to park in the right areas.
Bird will launch with 300 scooters and 300 bikes in the first phase. They will be set up at bus and ferry terminals. Well, the Cape Breton Regional Municipality just purchased its first electric ice resurfacer. Commonly known as a Zamboni, the city says it plans to eventually replace its entire fleet. As the CBC's Kyle Moore tells us, the first machine has been getting a lot of attention already.
Cape Breton's first ever electric ice resurfacer is receiving positive reviews, including from Alex Faulkner, a regular at the county arena. He's been skating for decades, and having good ice is important to him. He's seen a lot of changes over the years in how ice is made and maintained.
When I was skating at the Sydney Forum in 1956, we used to have a red barrel, and we'd pull them around. That's how you would clean the ice. That's back in 1956.
A lot has changed since then, and now another new innovation.
It arrived on Wednesday, so we're excited about that, and now just trying to get it operational. Although our ice season is coming to an end, it gives us an opportunity to get ready for next season with this new unit.
Paul McDonald says the new machine came from Italy and cost more than $180,000. It was purchased through a provincial grant. He says it's part of the province's plan to become greener and more energy efficient and will replace the current Zamboni that uses propane.
And then that's another thing that people don't realize. Although propane is certainly much better than gasoline, it still emits emissions from the units. And right now with an electric system, it's clean, it's quiet, and it does the same job as they did.
Several brands of electric ice resurfacers, along with electric edgers for smoothing the sides of the rink, are available in Canada. In Nova Scotia, rebates are available for larger zero-emission vehicles. Alan Faulkner says he's in favor of cleaner air inside the arena.
I went from hauling a barrel around the creamy ice to see the old Symbion, and I got to see this one. I'm glad I got to see this one.
The machine will officially make its debut when the new season begins in September. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Coxheath.
Cole Harbour's Sidney Crosby has made hockey history once again.
Grizzlies playing it behind the net. Here's Crosby in front. One-timer, and he beats Reimer. And the Penguins are on the board.
That's the moment Sidney Crosby notched another feat in the NHL record books. His goal, about 9 minutes into the first period of Thursday night's game against Buffalo, ensured he'll finish his 20th season averaging at least 1 point per game. That beats the record set by Wayne Gretzky, who finished all but his 20th season and final season averaging a point per outing.
Spice there by the Sabres is...
And there's a look at beautiful Bedford. Ryan will be up next with the weather forecast. We'll see you on the other side of the break. All right, we're back to talk weather. And Ryan, earlier in the show, you were teasing us about a solar event coming.
That's right. Solar eclipse. Now, everybody remembers last April. Big event.
We got the glasses.
Once in a lifetime. That's right. Totality coming through the Maritimes. This will not be that.
Okay.
But it will still be certainly a partial event. And if you're up and at 'em and you got those glasses, you might as well have a look because it is going to be pretty cool.
And try and find them, right?
That's the key thing. Yeah, I think mine are in the junk drawer, so we'll try to dig those
bent,
out.
but they'll be fine.
Exactly. Have a look at the details of this. So again, that partial eclipse will be actually beginning before the sun rises here in the Maritimes. So as the sun rises, it will already be eclipsing. The eclipse maximum will be about 84%, so not too bad. But again, we did get to like 97, even here in, and well, of course, Meat Cove got to 100, but in last April. So still a pretty impressive event. This is going to be right around 7:20 is when it will reach its maximum. It'll all be over by 8:15 to 8:20.
Snooze, you lose.
Exactly, exactly. Now, the big question, what are the clouds looking like? Well, don't worry about waking up. In Yarmouth and Shelburne and Digby, that's the area for sure that is looking at just lots of clouds, some light snow. Conditions improve as we work our way up towards eastern areas of the valley, the metro area, but the best viewing is no doubt going to be across the north and east and into Cape Breton. This is where we are looking at some sun and some cloud, but solid chances for viewing this eclipse for the early morning hours. We'll get back to that timeline in just a second. First, just want to show you where we are right now. Temps certainly cooler here across the north and east right now. Temperatures fairly mild in through the south and west at this hour, and we are still looking at some gusty west and northwest winds on the other side of this front, which is rolling through with showers and some flurries. And yeah, we're going to be looking at that front continuing to sail through. Temperatures dropping tonight on the other side of this front. This is the frontal boundary that is going to make headlines here over the next couple of days. Not Toronto, but north of Toronto, there is a significant freezing rain setting up, freezing rain event setting up. Look at these temperature contrasts, 25 in Chicago, -2 in Thunder Bay. That is a front, and it extends all the way from Quebec and New England, all the way back into the plains of the U.S. And this is that frontal boundary where that freezing rain is going to be setting up. We will tap into that as well Sunday night into Monday, but it's not looking like a significant event for us. The showers and flurries ending, -3 to -7. And yes, as we watch those showers and flurries clear away, this is where into Saturday morning, that cloud will build in. We're looking at that snow. Could see 2 to 5 centimeters in the southwest on Saturday morning, and then we're looking at the skies clearing into the afternoon. A beautiful day in Cape Breton, a chilly day, but a beautiful day. -1 to -3 across the island, Guysborough up into Antigonish. Likely on the plus side from the eastern shore back into this metro area. Below the freezing mark here along the north shore, right near the freezing mark, but likely just below. And then into the valley and the western areas, near the freezing mark to as mild as 2 into the afternoon, but again, that snow in the morning. Now, as we look at the outlook here, as that front moves away, Sunday morning, we're looking at high clouds moving in, and I do think, though, a solid mix of sun and cloud for Sunday morning, and then increasing clouds throughout the afternoon. And this is where, again, we're looking at that significant freezing rain event setting up to our north, including Maine. Even New Brunswick could see some pretty solid icing. And for Nova Scotia, I do think, let's show you Sunday's forecast temperatures, 3 to 6 on the mainland, right around 1 in through Cape Breton. I do think we'll see enough to make things pretty slick Monday morning, the northeast, Colchester, Cumberland, inland areas down towards even Halifax County, but the northeast and into Cape Breton. This is where that freezing rain could hang on through Monday morning, making for some slick travel conditions for that morning commute. And then we're going to bump over to some rain as those temperatures rise to double digits by Monday afternoon. We're staying mild Tuesday with temperatures falling throughout the day, a chilly Wednesday, and then another mess brewing for Thursday, Amy.
Yeah, being active. All right, thanks for that, Ryan.
Thank you.
Coming up, wildfire preparedness. A first look at some of the new gear crews will be working with this season. Wildfire season is underway in Nova Scotia, and right now in the province, conditions are very dry. I'm here in Shubenacadie with DNR's Manager of Forest Protection, Scott Tingley. So how quickly do things dry out, even when we see snow, we see rain this time of year?
A lot of the monitoring we do is in the woods, and so the woods will take a little bit longer to dry out than the fields and the grass, things like that. But as we progress through spring and days without rain, the woods will start to dry out, and those grass fires will start to spread into the woods. And so, of course, that's why we ask people to exercise caution in all conditions, because those light, flashy grass fires are what will turn into forest fires eventually as the spring progresses.
Well, you do get people who are looking at their backyards, and, they've got a lot of brush, or they want to clean it up. But what's your advice to them?
Yeah, so we just ask folks that if they need to burn, that they're being safe with it. They can follow our daily burn restrictions. There's lots of great resources at firesmart.ca, or they can visit a local DNR office, or in some cases their municipality has lots of great information on FireSmart, and there's lots of great tips that folks can follow, not only to prevent fires, but they can do some mitigations around their properties or communities in case a wildfire does happen that can lessen the impacts.
Of course, 2023 was a very memorable wildfire season in Nova Scotia. 200 homes burned, 25,000 hectares burned up as well. What lessons came out of that for you?
Yeah, I mean, from 2023 is a huge event. There was actually a formal after-action review and report and recommendations that came out of that. For me personally, I mean, we saw some things. Our department was able to stand up teams and get firefighters deployed and be relatively effective on kind of suppressing and managing those fires. But we, as you go through any event like that, you always have an opportunity to recognize where there are gaps. A lot of the lessons learned were around coordination, communication, information sharing, and things like that.
And you've got some new tools to help firefighters the next time something like a fire happens.
Yeah, so over here we've got a new portable pump. So these would be the pumps that our staff would set up, to run out of a beaver pond or a lake or a river. This is an example of some new technology. So we've had pumps in our system for decades. And this one is now, it's a bit lighter than the traditional pumps. It's a little more compact. And it has some new technology, some new electronics and things like that make them easier to maintain and diagnose in terms of mechanical problems. And so we've invested in that, started to refresh, our existing pump system. We've been investing in new hose. We used a lot of hose. A lot of hose gets damaged and things like that when you're fighting fire. And we also maintain a cache here to support all of our depots. So as each of our DNR offices starts to use their equipment, they can call us to kind of supplement them. And likewise, we also share nationally. So all of our equipment meets national standards. And if Alberta, like they did last year, we had sent some equipment out, and likewise, if we need it, they can send it. We're all using the same stuff.
Okay, Scott, now we're at the Mobile Communications Support Trailer. This is new. What are your plans for it?
Yeah, so this is equipment. We work very, very closely with the folks at Public Safety Field Communications. They provide critical communication support on all of our incidents. So things like our radios, satellite phones, things like that. They're able to provide us that equipment, train us on how to use it. And again, they provide critical links between just not only our department, but between the volunteer and municipal fire departments, other supporting agencies that are working. So these vehicles can be mobilized and moved around the province, on a moment's notice and be on site, within minutes or hours, depending on where the site is, and provide that essential support that we need. This is adding more equipment to the cache and also upgrading, from older or past equipment.
Okay, Scott, these are the coolest tools in the toolkit. Tell me about the helicopters.
Yeah, so the department owns and operates a fleet of 4 helicopters. You can see them here. They're all identical. We use them on everything from dropping water, suppressing the fire, moving staff into remote locations where there aren't roads and it's hard to get to. Use them for reconnaissance, flyovers and having, management staff get situational awareness as to what fires are doing. And we can also operate equipment like infrared cameras and things like that out of the helicopters to, again, support monitoring fires and determining where hotspots and things like that.
And I understand you're looking towards an upgrade.
Yes, yeah, we've been operating this fleet since about 2016, 2018, and we're in the process of upgrading the fleet here now. And so over the next couple of years, all 4 machines will be replaced.
How critical are these helicopters to getting fires put out?
Yeah, aerial suppression is a key element to fighting fires. They won't put the fires out. That's the job of the ground crews, but these are key in containing and suppressing the forward movement of the fire. And then the critical element is getting ground crews in after the aircraft, whether it be helicopters or fixed-wing air bombers. Crews go in and dig up those hot spots with the tools we were showcasing there, and actually put the fire out to extinguished. One of the key functions they do is the pilots can attach a helicopter bucket, we call it. They can carry water, and they can control the bucket, so the release of the water from the cockpit and release either part of the load or the full load, depending on what the job is.
Well, how do they go about filling it up?
So the helicopter will often come in over like a beaver pond or a lake or some kind of appropriate water source, and they'll just lower the bucket into the water. It's got a weight on one side of it, so the weight will pull it underneath of the water, and once the bucket's filled up, he can see it through a window in his floor. He'll lift it up and fly away with the water.
That doesn't sound that easy.
No, it takes a lot of skill and a lot of talent, yeah, for sure.
Is it dangerous at all?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're flying aircraft in general, there's a risk, and aerial firefighting certainly is a risky job, and our pilots are very experienced. They've been in lots of fires, and they have a lot of systems in place to mitigate risk, but yes, there's definitely risks involved.
All right, well, thank you. We appreciate the tour.
You bet. Thank you.
Coming up, Canada-U.S. relations. Prime Minister Mark Carney has his first phone call with President Trump. And searching for survivors. More than 100 people are dead and more missing after a powerful earthquake hits Myanmar and Thailand. Welcome back. More than 150 people are dead after a powerful earthquake rocked Myanmar and neighboring Thailand, reducing buildings to rubble and warping roads. As the CBC's Salima Shivji reports, rescuers are now racing against the clock to find survivors.
As the ground shook for a minute straight, the terror set in. Buildings left crumpled and flattened across Mandalay in central Myanmar, so close to the epicenter, at the heart of the country, long cut off from the world. The 7.7 magnitude earthquake quickly followed by aftershocks nearly as strong, leaving cracks in concrete roads and demolishing bridges. The injured and desperate rushed to hospitals, so unstable from the shaking, hundreds had to be treated outside. I thought my house would collapse on me. A wooden cabinet fell and clipped my head, this woman says. Information on the number of injured inside Myanmar was slow to trickle out, and still the death toll kept rising, with hospitals overwhelmed. The stone plates of our wall hit my daughter. There was blood everywhere, this woman says. The force of the quake so fierce it reached Bangkok and beyond, more than 1,000 kilometers away. A high-rise under construction collapsed in seconds. Everyone was running for their lives, this woman says. I was so scared and shocked. Rescue operations going deep into the night in a frantic search for survivors, with dozens trapped under the rubble. The entire city of Bangkok declared a disaster area, and there's an official state of emergency across 6 regions of Myanmar. The full extent of the damage is still unclear, but with an earthquake so shallow and powerful, the fear is that the loss of life is extensive and could reach higher than 1,000 people. It's already prompted an extraordinary plea from Myanmar's military junta chief. Any country or foreign organization, anyone inside the country is invited to help, he says. An ask so rare for rulers used to strictly controlling access. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Bangkok.
Liberal leader Mark Carney spent part of day 6 of the election race not on the campaign trail, but instead working in his other role as Canada's Prime Minister. Carney had a phone call with Donald Trump about the ongoing trade war. As the CBC's Ashley Burke reports, there was a noticeable and positive change in tone from the U.S. president.
Liberal leader Mark Carney described his call with Donald Trump, saying it was constructive and substantive, and said that they agreed to negotiate a new economic and security relationship right after the election. Carney's campaigning for a majority government, saying that he wants to lead those talks, but also said in the call that he didn't get any indication from Trump that he was backing down on his tariffs.
The president did not indicate pulling back on the tariffs on autos or steel or aluminum during the call. My response included that, look, this is the start of a process. Part of what's important, it underscores the importance of more intensive discussions between the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of International Trade, and their.
Carney told Trump that Canada will retaliate after he makes his next move in this tariff war on April 2nd. Carney said that Trump did respect Canada's sovereignty, both in his public and his private comments today. We saw a change in tone from Trump. He described the conversation as a very good call.
Mark called me today at 10 o'clock. We put out a statement. We had a very, very good talk. We have Liberation Day, as you know, on April 2nd, because, and I'm not referring to Canada, but many countries have taken advantage of us, the likes of which nobody even thought was possible for many, many decades, And, you know, that has to stop. We're going to end up with a very good relationship with Canada and a lot of the other countries.
When I asked Carney if he trusted that, he said that there's always a strategy and a negotiation. Now, on the campaign trail, Carney also announced a $5 billion fund to help diversify trade and work with ports like this one to cooperate with each other rather than compete. Carney is now on his way back to Ottawa. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Montreal.
It's not just Canada dealing with the uncertainty of the Trump administration. Chris Brown traveled to the south of France recently, where he found famed wineries are scrambling to find new buyers even before U.S. tariffs hit.
The season has only just begun, but already the mood in southern France's wine region has turned sour. Pierre Geoffrey runs Chateau Terrefort with his wife Nadine Auré. They make about 15,000 bottles a year, mostly red, a lot of it sold abroad. Just the threat by Donald Trump of a big tariff hit has already cost them a lot of business.
We should have an order in April for the US markets. We are now end of March.
And he said today, for this time, we stop.
And we just know it today, he won't order.
Who is this?
It's our main importer in California.
The couple laid off a longtime worker, and it's hard to plan for the future.
How could you find a strategy in front of someone who has known?
European diplomats have come away from White House meetings despondent, believing EU products, including alcohol, will face at least a 20% duty. And if Europe retaliates, Trump has threatened a nuclear option, a 200% tariff on alcohol. But this economist doubts it will come to that. I think the Americans don't necessarily want a lot of customs duties, says Anne-Sophie Alsif. I think they want to get deals and negotiate a better deal. Perhaps, but other producers are trying to make contingency plans, such as this sales rep for a champagne company who's looking for new buyers in Canada.
We were going to Canada in May to Calgary and Vancouver for Top Drop event, and we also have to target other markets.
Chateau Terrefort weathered previous Trump tariff threats in his first term, but it took years to recover the business they lost.
It's very hard to get it back, because you have all the work to do to reconquer that market.
Their hope is that Europe stays united and hits back at the United States, but not so hard that it ruins their winery. Chris Brown, CBC News, near Avignon, France.
Retaliatory measures against American tariffs are already having an impact in parts of the U.S. The decision to pull bourbon off store shelves in Canada is hurting distillers in Kentucky. As the CBC's Katie Simpson reports, that's why business and political leaders there are pleading with Canadians to reconsider their reactions.
Some American businesses caught in Donald Trump's trade war, they're facing backlash from Canadians, including getting hate mail. We're in the state of Kentucky, which obviously is known for its bourbon. And after Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canada, some Canadian provinces retaliated by pulling American booze, including bourbon, off of store shelves. Now, it means lost revenue for American distillers and lost opportunities. But even some of the business leaders who are speaking out against the tariffs, they're getting angry emails from Canadians.
You are heading for a full recession in the States with these moronic tariffs and talk of the 51st state BS. I'm just a farmer here in Canada, but even I know this Canadian, probably world boycott could last 4 years. This email literally came in today, this morning. It says, quote, Kentucky's problem is that people don't realize that when you, quote, vote Republican, get F again. Again, these are really strong emails that we get. And unfortunately, the negative implications for us is that, hey, we're the bad guys here. And we're just stuck in the middle of it.
Some of the political leaders here, they understand where the frustration in Canada is coming from. The Democratic governor, Andy Beshear, he too is speaking out against the tariffs, but he's also asking Canadian leaders for some leniency when it comes to the retaliation.
If the idea here, or part of the idea, is to get people to push back against the president for tariffs, we're doing that. That and bourbon's delicious. We'd like the entire world, including our Canadian friends, to be able to enjoy it.
The governor is bracing for things to get worse before they get better because Donald Trump is threatening to impose even more tariffs. And even though he is speaking out against the tariff policy and is encouraging other leaders and the public to do the same, so far, nothing seems to be working. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Frankfort, Kentucky.
Latest StatsCan data suggests the Canadian economy saw a cool down in February after a solid start in January. The real gross domestic product rose 0.4% in January, mostly because of a boom in the oil and gas industries. The first month also saw goods producing industries rising 1.1%. But a lower retail trade has been weighing on GDP. One economist ties the February slowdown to the end of the GST holiday mid-month, along with particularly harsh winter weather. U.S. tariffs are also expected to have a negative impact on growth this month. Canadian scientists are watching migratory birds closely. Bird flu has been spreading widely in the U.S., including among wild flocks. And as Jennifer Yoon reports, there are fears they'll be carrying the virus north.
Canadian scientists are monitoring the movement of wild birds very closely. As birds start migrating north, the fear is that they'll be bringing bird flu with them, pooping near farms or mingling with other animals and spreading the virus.
They can hitchhike with any migratory birds and come from south of the border and cause infections in Canada.
Bird flu, specifically H5N1, has been spreading quite a bit in the United States. It's hit poultry farms very hard and driven up the cost of eggs. It's also affected cattle, cows. It's infected about 1,000 dairy herds and prompted California to declare a state of emergency. People have been getting sick as well, mostly people who were exposed at dairy or poultry farms. A senior in Louisiana died after being infected, and in Canada, a teenager in British Columbia was hospitalized for months. They've since recovered, but we still don't know where that teenager got infected.
It was found really quickly because of the awareness and the testing protocols that we had in place here in British Columbia.
Also concerning whether the U.S. will continue cooperating with Canada and other countries when it comes to bird flu. The U.S. has said that it's pulling out of the World Health Organization, and there have been communication blackouts as well as job and funding cuts at key agencies like the National Institutes of Health and the Centers for Disease Control. And there was also accidental firings. Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency accidentally fired federal employees working on bird flu response. Now they're scrambling to hire them back.
The ability to track and monitor these things and understand them really depends on that goodwill to be open and proactively engaged in the international arena.
Cooperation is so crucial between Canada and the U.S. because we work closely together to monitor the birds that fly between our two countries. So far, American officials have been responding to Canada's calls when it comes to bird flu, but there remain concerns that that might change. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
This year's Juno Awards will be handed out in Vancouver on Sunday, and the ceremony showcases and honors Canadian singers, songwriters, and musical performers. But there's a new award category this year, reflecting our country's changing soundscape. Eli Glasner has the details.
At the Junos this year, the impact of the South Asian music scene is undeniable. Multiple categories, artists such as Suka, AP Dillon, Karan Aujla competing for major awards.
If someone was to tell me back then that this would be my life, the little version of me would never believe it.
Jonita Gandhi says she was bullied for her background growing up. Now millions follow her, and she'll be sharing the stage with Michael Bublé.
Oh my God, I am so excited.
She says streaming platforms helped her find fans while embracing her culture.
But that dream is kind of coming true now, and I'm able to kind of attract both Indian audiences and global audiences.
One of the epicenters of the South Asian sound is Surrey, BC.
I used to look towards UK because the Punjabi music industry was really heavy in UK. Now I feel like that whole hub is in Canada.
Surrey is known for its Punjabi music scene where Indian and hip-hop flavors simmer and stew. A flavor that's catching on.
Punjabi music has always been such a vibe. Even Bollywood, now they started using a lot of Punjabi music to push their movies a lot.
As recognition, the Junos created a new South Asian music category, a place for nominees like this producer who fuses traditional Tamil music with hip-hop, a sound shaped in Canada.
I can walk down the street and, there's a Tamil grocery store or, a Tamil Hindu temple. But outside of that, I was also exposed to other genres of music.
While the new award is welcome, many hope it's the beginning of something bigger.
I think I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that this isn't just a trend and that this results in kind of some long-term investment in Punjabi artists, in their art, in their craft.
She says with billions of streams and some of the most popular Punjabi rappers in the industry, this music scene is just getting started. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Vancouver.
Canadian and American markets tumbled today amid inflation worries and uncertainty over the scale and scope of the next round of U.S. tariffs set to kick in April 2nd. Here's a look at the numbers as we go to break. Okay, so there are many sides to spring in Nova Scotia. Yesterday, you had a picture of a snowman.
On the beach.
On the beach, yeah. But you've got another one today that's a little different.
That's right. As spring ebbs and flows, have a look at this picture. We're going to zoom in back to Cape Breton. Yesterday, we were at Inverness Beach for that snowman on the beach. This one from Marsh's, West Bay. And have a look at this. Yes, the
still
crocuses.
Still a little snow there, but...
Popping out of the snow, though. They're resilient.
Tough.
They are very tough, for sure. They'll get buried and come right back again. That's why we love them so much this time of year.
It's a Canadian spirit, right?
It's true. All right, one more reminder in case you're just joining us. A partial eclipse for tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, beginning before the sun rises, so we'll begin to see it as the sun rises. It's maximum right around 7:20, about 84% of the sun eclipsed. And yeah, that will end in the early 8 o'clock hour. So make sure you're getting up early and make sure you've got the proper glasses to view that eclipse. It will be just as dangerous to view that with your eyes, bare eyes, as it was last spring. Not looking so great in the southwest of the province with that cloud, and yes, that light snow pushing in across the province on Saturday morning. Better viewing conditions in the northeast. That snow will slide away into the afternoon, and we are looking at temperatures popping anywhere from -2 in through the northeast, 1 to 3, maybe as mild as 4 degrees in and along the Atlantic coastline. A brighter day overall on Sunday, especially through the morning hours, building clouds into the afternoon, 3 to 6 degrees for most, a little cooler in through Cape Breton, still with that onshore flow. And we are looking at this messy mix of snow and ice pellets and freezing rain and changing over to rain throughout Monday, though Monday morning's commute could still be quite icy, especially in the northeast.
Be aware of that for sure. Well, lava is oozing out of an active volcano on the island of Hawaii once again. The volcano, called Kilauea, has been erupting on and off since late December. Each time, it has sent lava into the air and spilled molten rock across the floor of the caldera, which is the large depression that forms when a volcano erupts and collapses inward. Tourists have been flocking to the area to catch a glimpse of the spectacle.
Authorities say the eruption doesn't pose a threat to people living in the area. Kilauea is one of 6 active volcanoes in Hawaii, including one that is underwater.
Wow. All right, well, that is it for us tonight. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.